Hello and welcome back to another Warlords of Draenor video. So this time I'm going to be showing you a little bit of the inside of the Highmaul raid. Unfortunately, we were not able to even fight the first boss. Basically, there were nothing but problems with the raid testing thing. I think one or two guilds got maybe a few pulls on him, but no one else was able to, essentially. There was just nothing but server problems. It took us like an hour to get in, and unfortunately the second bout of raid testing basically failed for everyone because nobody could get past the load screen. So that was fun. Anyway, here's the first boss. He's called Butcher. His basic mechanics are that he will basically charge a group of players that are in a clump, and he'll start doing this cleave attack, and that cleave will build up stacks on them, and if that reaches 5 stacks, they instantly die. I just sort of skipped on here so you can see a bit of a tour of the inside. But yeah, if you take 5 stacks of the cleave, you die, so you need to make sure he's always jumping between different groups of players. It seems like a pretty cool fight, actually, so that should be fun. It would be nice to test it, but let's just have a bit of a run through the rest of this instance. So first of all, you can see lots of big ogre buildings. This is essentially an ogre city, and this video is really just going to cover the sort of town that's below the main fortress, because obviously we just didn't have a way to get into the fortress. Still, hey, it's nice, and I think at the end of this video, I'll also show you a little bit of Nagrand, because we got to go outside for a bit. And Nagrand is still really pretty. There's a big ogre banner. I've got to say, it was certainly a very nice looking raid, and I really like how it's a bit more open. Now, I don't know if the bosses themselves are going to follow a non-linear structure or not. I need to double check that. I think they might. But what matters, well, one thing that does matter anyway, is that this raid is pretty open. Now, some things are not perfectly done. Like, for an example, there's no ground clutter here. Things like that will eventually be added. Again, this is just very rough, you know. I'm also not really sure when we'll actually get back in to do more boss testing, because, I mean, it was catastrophic, the level of problems that Blizzard were having with this. Nobody could get into servers. There were, I think it was really just this thing where people get stuck in a 90% load screen, and then some people just couldn't access their characters. So we got into the first wave, but for the second wave, a few of our team got in. I don't know if they actually got any attempts on, because they were having some strange issues inside the raid. But I do know that, well, I couldn't get in, Hobbs couldn't get in, Noble couldn't get in, and a few of the other people couldn't get in. So that was all fun and stuff. Now, so the people actually did get inside the raid, I don't know if they managed to get a pull. I haven't heard back from any of them, so I'm going to assume none of them did. Yeah, it was just a complete disaster, but I suppose that is what testing is for. It was interesting, though, hearing everyone else talk. Yeah, basically this is, in terms of server stability and things like that, maybe the shakiest sort of beta testing period they've had so far. There have been numerous issues going on the main server, which is called Lost Isles. So that's been fun. That's just been happening over the last weekend. Anyway, so about Highmaul itself, I'm actually really happy with it. I think it looks cool. I like the sort of giant size of everything, and I like how open it is. I think there's also a few different bosses at the start which seem to be in a non-linear fashion, which again is very good. I'd imagine that perhaps you do most of the bosses down here, and then you just go up into the sort of main fortress fireplace for the last 2 or 3. So that means they can still have their fun sort of directed end experience, but still have a, you know, like if you just look at the map there, there's a good few bosses on this lower level, and that's great. You can even see, places are called like the Market District or whatever, and yeah, this is basically just set out like an ogre town. Because, of course, at this stage, ogres had a full-on civilization going. And, I really can't see myself liking this. I've really enjoyed Mogushan Vaults, and I think I might really enjoy this as well. So I'd say that both expansions are going to have a very solid, very first raid. Now, this raid is going to be the first one to come out. Just like with the Heart of Fear and Miss Pandaria, Blackrock Foundry is going to come out sometime after this. Anyway, that's basically all we've got for the actual looking around of, this raid in Highmaul. What I'm just going to show you now is some clips of us outside in Nagrand, which I thought were really pretty. Sorry for my UI stuff there. I didn't really think I'd be using this in a video, but I just thought it was cool to see it with different lighting and all that. So yeah, look, that's basically the best I can do with this video. I know it's, in the grand scheme of things, a pretty crap video, but honestly, it's really the best I was able to get. This is the only in-game time that I had during the raid test, and I mean, like, not even like Fat Boss, Final Boss, Method, Blood Legion, etc. They couldn't get in. So yeah, hey, I'm happy that I at least got something. I don't know if that same group's going to get back together again for the next test, so I don't know what I'm going to do for that, because I definitely do want to go back and test the next fight. I'd imagine that the problems that we have experienced here will have been fixed, because Blizzard do need to get quality raid testing in at some point. Now, I have watched one or two of the pulls that Midwinter did on the first boss of Highmaul, which is called Butcher, and it looked like quite a fun fight. Basically, there was that cleave thing I was talking about, but he also did a Blade Storm, and that was it. But I think there's definitely some more stuff going on that I just didn't really pick up. Anyway, look, that's really about it for Highmaul. I'm sorry we couldn't bring you any more, but I thought this is what I have. I may as well show it to people, because Highmaul itself, you know, not regarding the bosses or anything like that, but the actual location does look really cool, and it just feels like you're in this place where you're not welcome. It's just, like, it feels like a big adventure, honestly. That's what it feels like. Much like, well, the rest of Warlords of Draenor, bar the faction hub fiascos and all that crap, the whole expansion does feel like an adventure, and this just feels like a really interesting location for a raid. I love the fact it's non-linear at the start, and overall, yeah, good stuff. So my initial impressions are great. Let me know what you think of all this architecture, and be sure to stay around the channel for when I actually do get to do some raid testing. Anyway, that's it from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.